The Bride of the Cursed Lake. Chapter 4. Echoes of the Past. Part 3. The cottage waited like an open mouth. My footfalls echoed down its throat as I stumbled inside. Shadows lay crouched in the corners, as though they had been watching the door, as though they had been waiting all along. I dropped to my knees on the wooden floor and spread the pages before me. The lights flickered overhead, catching the yellowed paper in brief, startled flashes. Strings of thought came undone and broke, wound themselves around my hands like live things. My pulse was loud enough to shatter me. Among the scraps of newsprint and my notes, there was a spool of red string I'd found in a drawer. I don't remember placing it there. I don't remember why I started tying the pieces together with it, only that I couldn't stop. The lines of newsprint and the frantic loops of my notes spun like incantations. They formed a terrible prophecy, one that screamed Anna's name and then let it fall silent. I tugged at the red thread that tangled through the pile and twisted it tight around my finger, daring it to cut to the bone, daring it to tell me what was real. The room shifted and spun with every exhale. The scent of leaves and water followed me like ghosts, like curses. I squeezed my eyes shut against it, against the pull of everything I thought I knew. I felt Anna's breath on my neck. I heard the lake's cry beneath my skin. Outside, the mist turned silver in the moonlight. Inside, I was sinking into something nameless and cold. I fumbled with the scattered pages, connecting them in frantic lines and dizzy circles. The scraps of my research stared up at me like accusing eyes. Another lost to the lake. I read aloud. My voice scraped the air, unfamiliar and raw. Gone without a trace. Is the curse real? I repeated each headline as if I could learn its secret, as if I could find Anna inside the ink. But the pages were old and brittle, and my hands shook when I touched them. I pinned them to the floor with red string and fraying will, spreading them like stars into a galaxy I could not fathom. Dates, locations, names. They mocked me in a language that was almost mine. The Bride of the Cursed Lake. I scrawled across the largest page, feeling the words bleed and blur. I was on my knees in the center of the madness, in the center of the only truth that would not betray me. Logic, I whispered to the room, to the night, to the shadows that danced like swans at the edges of my vision. There's logic to this. I drew a deep breath, pulled it into my lungs like poison, held it there. The sound of Evelyn's voice rattled in my thoughts, calm and unrelenting. Some questions are better left unasked. Her words filled the space between my ribs, and I could not breathe them out. Old stories, she had said. Her smile was too gentle to bear. Old stories speak of women who find their true forms and men who become guardians of grief. The fire in my chest burned and faltered, leaving the edges of my vision bright and trembling. I grabbed a pen with the white-knuckled hands and scratched more notes into the gaps between knowing and forgetting. Myth, I scribbled, or curse. My grip broke the pen's tip. I clutched the shards of it until ink ran down my wrist, like blood. James, I heard Anna say, though she was not there, though she was never there. I said my own name until it became sound without meaning. The cottage stretched into something unfamiliar, folding in on itself with cruel and impossible angles. The arrangement of the stones outside my window. Was there a pattern? The ripples in my water glass. Was there a sign? I stumbled into walls that did not stay still, into a madness that smelled like rain. The light above me blinked and shifted, painting shadows that looked like birds. My thoughts shook and screamed and begged for order. Even the air seemed to breathe with Anna's presence. I turned, expecting her to be beside me. The cottage swayed with its own terrible memory, with the sound of her absence breaking like wings against the glass. You knew, I shouted, and he was not sure if I meant the house, or myself, or the lake. The silence that followed was a choking thing, a hand around my throat. I staggered back to the papers, back to the horror of their truth. It was not what I thought. It was more. And then I saw it. Something that shouldn't exist. And yet, there it was. A small white feather hidden among the clippings, waiting like a soft and silent answer. I picked it up with unsteady fingers, afraid it might crumble to dust, afraid it might vanish into light. But the feather remained, unreal yet undeniable. It glowed with an inner luminescence, like something alive, like something more than alive. Anna, I whispered, and the house whispered back. The pages around me shuddered and breathed. The air vibrated with a sound too large to hold. My vision faltered, split. The moon and the mist and the lake inside my heart opened like a wound. The feather's light was blinding, a raw and tender thing. I clutched it to my chest and felt it pulse with every beat of Anna's name. The web of notes and clippings spun like wings, like an infinite cycle that could not be broken. Who? I asked, and the sound was ragged, barely mine. Who am I? I asked the cottage, the paper, the madness. Who are you? The room answered, shivering and cold. I was caught in a current I could not fight, in a story I did not write. I could feel myself coming apart, and in the coming apart, I was whole. I held the feather to the light, saw it bend the world around its glow. I touched my face with trembling hands and found it real, found it gone, found it something I did not know. There was nothing left but to give into it, to the story, to the weight of the past and future, to everything Anna had left behind for me. I dropped the feather to the floor, and it floated there, slow and weightless. The lights flickered overhead. I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window. My own eyes stared back at me, familiar, human, mine, but only for a moment. I watched my features twist, watched them become other. The reflection held. My sanity did not. And then it was gone, and I was gone, and it all collapsed inside of me. My thoughts blurred and dissolved, water to mist, mist to sky. I gathered the papers in broken, looping circles. My mind splintered around the names, around the stories. The lake takes only those who already belong to it. The water knows its own. Evelyn's voice, soft as smoke, cracked through my thoughts and sent them spinning. "Is this all?" I shouted, pinning the feather to the center of the web, to the center of the world. "Is this everything?" The echoes rang hollow, but I did not care. "Anna," I cried, and the pages quivered in reply, and the light grew dim. There was nothing left to say. There was everything left to say. I was drowning in madness, in knowing, in myself. The wing beats grew louder, and I knew they were not only in the air. They were inside of me. They were inside of everything. I fell to my knees and held my head in my hands. A man lost, a creature becoming. I filled the room with ink and feathers and Anna's name. And then, like the breath of an ancient, aching god, it stopped